Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to apologize for the slight delay in the webinar. We had some technical difficulties, but they appear to be all sorted now. Thank you very much for joining us for the Microsoft Teams for Staff Introduction webinar. My name is Manny Sandhu. I'm a program manager at Microsoft with the Teams Engineering Group, and my specialty, as well as my colleagues, is Teams for Education. We're very happy you could join us today and spend time with us for the next hour. I'll be walking us through staff scenarios for using Microsoft Teams inside universities. With me, I have my colleague Nick, who'll be manning the question and answers, so please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Throughout the webinar, Nick will do his best to answer them, and we will try to do our best at the end to answer any pending questions that are remaining. For those of you that are new to Microsoft Teams is the fastest growing business application Microsoft has ever put out with, and that says a lot about the number of the length of Microsoft's history, the number of applications that we put out. Microsoft Teams is approximately just shy of 2 years old, about 19 months old, and already we have over 300,000 companies using Microsoft Teams. We have 87% of the Fortune 100 companies using Microsoft Teams. We have 60 customers that are using it with 10,000 plus users on a daily basis. And then we have Accenture, who has publicly come out and says all 100 plus thousands of our staff and vendors are using Teams on a daily basis. Now, a lot of these numbers are for commercial as well as education. I can tell you from experience that Teams is taking off tremendously in the education space as well, given it is part of the O365 suite. For those of you that don't know what Microsoft Teams is a collaboration tool that's part of O365. Now, if I had to summarize and really give quick bullet points on what is Microsoft Teams, I would summarize it into four areas. First, communication. So Microsoft Teams allows you to chat, have meetings, and calling through the Teams UI. Some of you may or may not know this, that we have publicly announced that Skype for Business Online is being dissolved into Microsoft Teams. So if you're using Skype for Business today, the chatting functionality, the being able to set up meetings, and the calling functionality are all available in Teams today. The real bread and butter, I would say the real winner of Microsoft Teams is our collaboration component. Microsoft Teams is part of O365, so it has deep integration with the other O365 applications, such as Power BI, SharePoint, Microsoft Planner, Word, Excel, all of those applications that most of us use on a daily basis. The third pillar, I would say, is Microsoft Teams' ability to be customized and extendable if needed. Microsoft Teams has an app store, so you can bring in applications like Trello, like Poly, like SurveyMonkey, like AHA, or a number of other applications to customize your view, to bring in the applications that you use on a regular basis to truly become that hub and reduce context switching. And if we don't have the application, we have a number of APIs available that allow you to extend the Teams framework and bring in line of business applications to the hub environment. The last pillar is working with confidence. Now, because Teams is part of O365, all the security, all the compliance, all the manageability that are part of O365 extend to Microsoft Teams. So your FERPA compliance for student compliance, your HIPAA compliance, your ISO compliance, and a number of other trustworthy computing that O365 has, it extends directly into Microsoft Teams. Now, at this time, I'm going to ask Nick. Nick is going to paste a YouTube video in the chat window or the announcement window. And you can view it at your own time, but I really want to highlight how universities are using and rolling out Microsoft Teams. So the video that's in question is from the University of Central Lancaster. It's about 2.5 minutes. I'll let you view it on your own time, but I thought it was a really relevant video, particularly for a staff environment. And I've pulled out a few quotes which I feel will help set the mood for the demo that we're going to be doing shortly. The first one is, it's really about helping them to inspire our students to become that modern workforce of the future. It's absolutely putting the team front and center. It's all about the people to structure communications in a way that's effective and to allow people to collaborate. It significantly reduced the amount of email I deal with on a daily basis. And the last one is bring a lot of what we use and historically used email folder usage and chat functions together and really consolidate that into one place. So these are staff from university saying these quotes. And I'd like you to take a minute when you have a chance to view the video. Now, one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, okay, what desktop do I need to run Teams? And the Teams is I would pretty much say platform agnostic. It can run on Windows, it can run on Mac, it can run on your tablet, it can run on your iPhone, your Android, and it can run on a number of browsers with a near parity experience. So Edge, Chrome, Firefox, your Apple, your Android, whatever platform you're used to, you can get Teams and have that rich experience collaborating, chatting with your peers and colleagues. So the first ask I'm going to have is, if you have not downloaded Microsoft Teams, please go to aka.ms/get-teams and download your Teams client now. That'll help you really start getting used to, when I go into the demo, what the UI looks like, how you can interact with your colleagues. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to have two scenarios. The first scenario is a project management scenario. So we're going to talk how we can be connected to our teams, how we integrate with our data tools, and how we customize our view to really make it our hub. The second scenario we're going to have is around strategic advancement or fundraising. So how do we manage an event? How do we collaborate with external users? And how do we have a secure file repository for us to share and edit our documents together? With that, I'm going to switch over to our demo. So my name's Lucia in this demo. I am a project manager for university. I'm just woke up, I'm at home, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to check Teams on my mobile device. So when I launch Teams, it brings me to my activity feed. Now your activity feed is like your social media feed. It's what's been happening around you, what you need to spend your time on. So the first thing that I like to do is I look at my feed and I like to filter. And I'm going to filter on app mentions. Now app mentions is a concept like sending a to in an email or tagging somebody in your Instagram or Facebook or your social media to draw their attention to it. So I'm going to filter on app mentions, and I'm going to really say who, so I can see that Matthew has app mentioned me, and I've got a number of assignments. But besides that, I'm good. I think I have a good grasp of my day. The other filter that I do, I will also filter on what's unread. So there may be times in the morning where I will, me personally, I'll look at my app mentions, I'll look at my feed and say, okay, that's interesting, that's a good follow-up for me to do later. I will mark it as unread and then go back to it at a later time. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my meetings. What does my day look like? Now my meetings view in Teams is my Outlook calendar. So whatever I have in my Outlook syncs directly into my Teams environment. So here you can see I'm blocking for work, then I've got a block for lunch, I've got a go, no-go meeting. Okay, that's great. I've got a doctor's appointment, and I'm scheduled to drive home. Cool. Now, a lot of folks come to me and says, this is great, but I want to balance my work and life, and how can I do that? So with the Teams applications, we do have the ability to set up notifications. So if I were to click on quiet hours, I'm able to set which hours of the day do I want to get notifications and when do I not want to get notifications, as well as quiet days. So if I want to say I do not want to get tagged, I do not want to get notified on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever days you have off, you're able to toggle that so you don't get notified on your phone. Oh, Troy is just messaging me. Do you have a moment to meet? Yes, I'll be in the office shortly. So right away, I'm collaborating with a peer of mine to get my day started, to understand how people need to get a hold of me. So as my day begins, I drive into the office. Can we meet online? And I'm just going to simply acknowledge this with a like. Now, a like is an acknowledgement. It doesn't necessarily mean you like the message. It's more so I've read it, I'll action it, or I will acknowledge the fact that I read that message. So now, driving into the office, I get to my office, Lucia, and I launch my Teams. So this is my Teams environment. The most frequent question I get asked when I'm talking to customers is, great, I know what Teams is. How do I use Teams? And the answer I always give is Teams is a tool. What you do with it is entirely up to you. And what I mean by that is if you look at my screen here, Lucia is taking an entrepreneurship course. So there is a team for that course, as well as she's a project manager. So she has a team set up as well for project management. Now, sticking with the project management, you're going to get your team, project manager, you can get a general channel, which is out of the box what you get. You'll have conversations, you have files, but what I want to do is I want to bring in my Power BI. Now, Teams sits in O365. We have deep integration with our O365 applications, Power BI being one of them. So I have a data set that I've brought into Teams, and it allows me to slice and dice the data, and the data moves on the fly, and it keeps me in the context of a hub. Now, I need to create a new team. So I'm going to create a new team. So in this bottom corner here, I'll say join or add team, and I'll click on create team. Microsoft Teams is unique from Microsoft. It's one of the few applications that we produce that's specifically designed for education. So in the education SKU of Microsoft Teams, you have different team types. The first team type is a classroom team type, then you have a professional learning community team type, you have a staff member team type, and then an anyone team type. These first three have a lot of similarities in the sense that they include a OneNote notebook when you create the team. The class team type will create a classroom OneNote notebook with the classroom template. The next one will create a PLC, a professional learning community notebook, and then the last one will create a staff members notebook as well. For the purpose of this demo, we are going to select an anyone team type, and the project name is Alpha. I can give it a description, and I can mark the privacy on it. Now, the privacy means do you want anyone in your organization to join this, or do you want to restrict who is a member and only owners can bring members in to collaborate? That's entirely up to you how you want to mark your privacy or how you want to mark your permissions. If you have a book club as an example, you may want to mark that as a public team where anybody can join. If you're working on this scenario, like, such as a project, you want to mark it as private. One thing that I will highlight, a lot of people miss this because it's a pretty small font, but you can create a team from an existing team as a template. So if you want to reuse how your team structure looks like, you can select one of the previous teams that you were an owner of, and it will create almost a copy of that team. So let's go ahead and finish this out. Project Alpha, I will keep it as a private team. This gives me the ability to add members, so I'm going to add Troy because I know Troy needs to be in this, and I will hit close. Now, out of the box, as mentioned, we're going to get a general channel. We will have a conversations tab, and we will have a files tab. The files tab is our file repository. Teams is very customizable. We want to make it your hub, so you can customize your environment. For example, if you have files in a Dropbox or a Google Drive or a Box environment or even another SharePoint library, you can link additional cloud storage as a folder within your folders tab. That allows you to keep everything consolidated and together. Besides that, we can customize our tab view by clicking on Add a tab. So now your view may change depending on the permissions of that the administrator has given to you, but we can add Microsoft Forms, Power BI, as I showed you before, Microsoft Streams, as well as a number of third-party applications, Flipgrid, Law Tool Suite, Poly, Quizlet, RSpace, a number of things that you can customize. And as I mentioned previously, the APIs are available for you to create your own tab with your own line of business application if required. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm going to pin a website. And the website, I'll just call it website, and the URL is bing.com. Save. And now I've pinned a website. In this example, it's bing.com, and I can do my searches within here, or you can pin any other websites that you need to refer to on a regular basis. Now, I don't know if you noticed what happened when I was pinning that website, but Troy just sent me a message. In my Teams UI, what's going to happen is my activity feed changed to 1. In my team channel, it changed to 1, meaning there is an app mentioned to more. There's somebody directing me to that particular location. So I'm going to click on the general tab, and then I'm going to see here it says, thanks for adding me to the team. I'm going to set up some channels for different project teamworks. Now, I have a number of ways to reply. I can do a simple like, which is an acknowledgement, or I can reply and I can make it a bit funny. So I can add an emoji. There's our complete emoji list. I can go ahead and reply, add a GIF. So depending if I wanted to type the word thanks, there's a number of GIFs that are there. Or lastly, I can reply with a sticker. In this case, I'm going to reply with a Giphy, and I'm going to type the word thanks and see what pops up. And post it. There we go. Thank you. Now what you're going to see also is Troy has created additional channels underneath Project Alpha. So an engineering channel and a marketing channel. Channels are a way for you to focus conversations, file structures, and really be concise of how you want to speak. Rather than a simple one channel where everybody posts topics related to multiple different, post messages related to multiple different topics, we have gone ahead and created these channels, which allows us to really talk about, if we are in engineering, we're going to have engineering conversations here. If we are discussing marketing, we're going to have marketing conversations in here, as well as the files that are associated to each one of these topics. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about posting. Now, very simply at the bottom of the screen here, we have the posting menu. Now you can go ahead and just start typing. That will allow you to do a post. But what Teams does, it actually gives you a rich text editor. So by clicking on the A with the brush, you'll pop up a format window. This allows me to type in a topic. Welcome to engineering. And below that, I can put in my text. Using the channel to plan for an engineering event. As I showed you previously, I can add GIFs and emojis and all those fun things that went with it. But what I want to do now is I want to bring people's attention to this post. So I'm going to start with the symbol @ An @ mention is a way to bring people's attention to it, similar to the way Troy brought my attention to his post. There are 3 levels of @ mentioning. The first one is an individual @ mention. So I've gone ahead and I've @ mentioned Troy. I'm going to increase the size of my font so it's easier for everybody to see. So now Troy will get notified. The second @ mention is I want to @ mention the channel. That means everybody who follows or favorites that channel is going to get notified. And the third level of @ mention is the entire team. So everybody who's a part of this team is going to get notified of this update. How you use the different @ mentions is entirely up to you. I've had scenarios where there is a particular team and they've broken it up by, say, help desk and server support and project planning. One member of the team, for example, if they're sitting in help desk, doesn't necessarily need to follow what's happening in projects if they're not a part of it. So they'll do a lot of @ mentioning the actual channel itself, and those people will get notified in their activity feed, and they'll get the number of @ mentions I've mentioned previously, whereas the individual who owns the team would do a lot of @ mentioning of the team itself. So in this example, I'm going to say CC Project Alpha and do a post. So now everybody who's part of Project Alpha, you can see that there's 4 members, they're all going to get notified of this particular post. Now, I can't just be in here with myself and Troy. So as an owner, I'm going to add members to my team. So I will go to the team and I'll say add members. I can add members that are part of my tenant or part of my environment. So let's see if I add Ella. So here's Ella Weber, and I'm going to add Ella Weber to the team. I can also add individuals from outside of my tenant or external people and bring them into my environment to collaborate if your tenant allows for this. So I will just do a simple Microsoft@outlook.com. And what you're going to see here is you can say, it will show you add Microsoft@outlook.com as a guest into your environment. And I'll show you a little bit more about guest access when we switch over to our next scenario. So I'm going to close out. Switching gears slightly, I'm now an individual by the name of Adele. Adele is planning an event for alumni and maintains the budget for alumni. So now this is Adele's view of her teams. She has a strategic advancement team that she's a part of, a STEM program, a working group, and another working group that she's a part of. We can see here we have general channels, and we've built out our channels. There's actually 10 channels in this team. I am very focused on planning this event. So therefore, I have not favorited communication, internal communications, external communications, or the water cooler channel. I can customize my view to be the most relevant for me. So I can go ahead and favorite the water water cooler channel. I can go ahead and favorite the external communications channel, and then I can go ahead and, let's say, unfavorite the alumni affairs channel. Now this gives me the view I need rather than filling up my screen with channels I may not necessarily always follow or care to be informed about. Now they're always there for me. They're always there for me to search into. They're always there for me to review on my own time. But because I'm not favoriting them or I'm not following them, I'm not going to get notified of any @channel mentions. Now I'm going to go into alumni fundraising, and you can see here I've customized my view for alumni fundraising. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Fundraising Event Plan. Now, I'm an event planner. I'm planning my events. So I've brought in Microsoft Planner into my environment. Microsoft Planner is a very lightweight project management tool. We've created a number of buckets, so event management, speakers, sponsors, and we've given tasks underneath that to individuals. So you can see here for event management, Jamie has to do the deposit. Jamie has to select the venue. Under speakers, Adele has to find a short list, and Lucia has to determine the theme of the event. And in terms of hiring a sales team or sponsorship kits, those are given out to other coworkers of mine. So we are in teams. We're able to chat, have conversations, have our shared repository, but we're bringing in other applications like Planner in this case to make it that truly hub environment. Planner gives us additional functionalities around charts, so how many tasks underneath each bucket we have, who's assigned to it, how many are late, how many are ongoing, and it also gives us a calendar view so we know when items are due, so we're proactively prepared for it. Now, every once in a while, Adele loses her rhythm. And she wonders, why am I doing this? So she has purposely pinned a PDF file here. Now the PDF file really helps her refocus around targeting the next generation of principal gift donors. It's a quick read for Adele. It's a quick reference that her team likes to use, so she's pinned it as a PDF file as a tab. So they're not searching for all the files that they use on a regular basis. That's there. Now, some of you may have heard that, there's a saying or there's a thought that going on that data is the new currency. So part of what Adele is doing is she's looking at the data that she has, either in Excel or any other data set that she has, and she's using Power BI to look at that data. So here she has a Power BI around donors. So there's a list of who the top donors are, when they donated, how much are we expecting them to donate, what areas do we have our most donations from our alumni or even non-alum. That gives us the power to target our event to those areas that we know we're going to get the most money, or on the other side, how we should modify the event to target those areas that don't necessarily give the university that much more money. Underneath the Files tab, there is a budget, so I'm going to click on the budget. Now what you're going to notice is it's keeping me in Microsoft Teams. So we have an inline viewer of a number of documents, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, all of that can be viewed within the team, and we're not leaving the team. We can edit the team, either edit in Teams, edit in Excel online, or edit in the fact client for Excel, depending on which one you have. In this case, we'll edit in Teams. And this is our budget, right? So Teams is collaboration. So what do we want to do is we want to start a conversation about our budget. So when I click on Start Conversation, it's going to bring up the Conversation tab, and I'm going to go ahead and add Troy. Troy's not part of this team. Let's say Matthew. We're going to add Matthew and say, do these numbers look right? So now we're conversing and collaborating around a particular file itself. Now I'm going to jump over to Matthew. Now Matthew is part of Adele's team. He also has a number of teams that he's a part of, but you can see that the one that we want to go down to is fundraising, going into, so you can see here Matthew was tagged around the budget. So we're going to open the budget up. We're going to edit the budget. And Matthew has a number of options that he can do. When he goes in here, you can see that both Adele and Matthew are co-authoring the document together. So we no longer are sending emails back and forth with version 1, version 2, and wondering which is the final one, which is the latest one. We are both co-authoring the document together. And, oops, wrong button here. Let me go back into the editing. Let's say, for example, somebody maliciously or intently deleted a number of blocks. Now, in previous, scenarios, it'd be, oh, who has the latest backup? Who has the latest file? When was what do we have? How much data do we lose? Because we're using SharePoint as the repository, because we're using Excel and O365, we do have version control. Now, for version control, we do have to open up Excel as a desktop application. But as that loads up, I will then show you what version control is, so you can bring back information without actually having to worry about, did we lose it all? While that loads up, I want to quickly talk about the store. So you can see here there's an icon for the store. Matthew likes to customize his environment. He's we would say cutting edge. He likes to use applications like Trello. So he can bring in the Trello application directly into Microsoft Teams to help customize environment. He's also actually comparing both project management tools, Trello and AHA. So that gives him the ability, because we have both in the Microsoft Store, to see which one works best for him, which one works best for his team to purchase. What you're going to see now, that I've just opened that budget document in Excel, you can see Adele and Matthew are editing the document still, but we also have the ability to have version history. Now, version history shows us who's edited the file, when did they save it. So if we were to click on a particular version, it will load up and show us what those numbers were, or what the version was before. And we can either copy and paste the numbers, or we can click on Restore, and it brings that information back. So we're no longer worried about looking through email, worried about where the backups are. It takes care of all of that for us. It allows us to work smarter. It allows us to work better. Now, Matthew has some challenges with hearing. With reading sometimes. So Microsoft has a huge commitment to accessibility, not just within Microsoft Teams, but also across our entire Microsoft stack. So what I want to highlight now is what we call immersive reader. So you can see this post here from Adele. It's marked as important, but I unfortunately can't see it. So I'm going to click on immersive reader. It's going to launch our immersive reader software. Immersive reader is a tool that we have pretty much in all our O365 products to help those with visual or auditory challenges. Launching immersive reader, it gives us a few configurations that we can have. We can modify the size of the font or the text. We can increase or decrease spacing. We can change the font, or we can change the theme or the contrast to make it easier on the eyes to read. We have grammar configurations where we can break the word down into its syllables and then highlight each one of the syllables, as well as indicating which is a noun, which is an adjective, which is a verb. We also have reading preferences where we can focus on a singular line, 3 lines, or multiple lines to really draw our attention to the actual messages, as well as a picture dictionary that if we are looking for a word where we may not know the answer to, and we click on it, it will bring up a picture of that word to help us relate. Okay, we understand what this means. And then lastly, you may not be able to hear this, but it will read back the text to the user, and we can control the speed as well as the voice itself. So the large commitment on accessibility from Microsoft that we bring into our Microsoft Teams environment. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but my entire demo so far has been done off of the web. I'm not using a fat client. I'm using Chrome, I'm using Microsoft Edge, and it gives me the exact same experience as I would if I was using a application. Now, one of the aspects of work is meetings. So we have the ability to have meetings in Microsoft Teams. And there are 3 ways of having a meeting. The first way is in our post bar at the bottom, there's an icon with a camera and a circle around it that says Meet Now. If you were to click on that, it gives you the option, and I can't show it right now because of the video stream that we have in place, but it gives you the option to set up an ad hoc meeting or schedule a meeting for a later date and time, invite people in. It's the same UI as if I went to the left rail and clicked on Meetings and scheduled a meeting. So I can give it a title. I can just call this a sync. I can give it a location. So this will be a Microsoft Teams meeting by default. If you have your meeting rooms configured properly, you can select a meeting room. You can select the date and time of the actual appointment of the meeting, whether it's a repeat, and if it's repeats, is it daily, weekly, monthly, until how long it ends for, time zone, meeting details. If you are going to do it in the context of a team, you can select your channel, your team and channel, and then the notification of the meeting was put into that channel, so whoever is in that channel can join that meeting. If you are recording the meeting recording will be put into that channel, so it's all contextual. It all stays there. And if you're inviting somebody, so in this case, as Matthew, I'm going to invite Troy to this meeting. And I can go ahead and hit schedule. One thing that's really cool about Teams, I really like it, is it will actually compare the individuals who I've invited to the meeting, our calendars, and try to find a slot that works for us. Or I can open up the scheduling assistant, and that shows us everybody's calendar where we can find the spot that works best for everybody. Disregard changes. And the last way of scheduling a meeting, this is actually a bit variable depending on how your environment is set up. But in Microsoft Outlook, we do have the Microsoft Teams icon there. So when you're using your Outlook to schedule a meeting, you can click on Microsoft Teams. It will automatically put the Teams information here, say this is a Microsoft Teams meeting, and then you can invite people inside topics and all that the way you normally would do a meeting currently. So I'm going to hit cancel. No. Now, going back to our environment, Adele, Matthew, Troy, and Lucia are all colleagues. They're all friends. They all work together, but they all part of different groups. So every once in a while, they like to get together, and they're going to select a private chat, and we're calling this Lunch Buddies. So we are going to chat not just within our team and within our channel around teamwork and collaboration. We can have one-on-ones or one-to-many conversations outside of the team, just as you would for a Skype for Business in chat right now. So we have a group called lunch buddies. So Adele is part of it, Ellen is part of it, Jamie's part of it, Lucia is part of it, but Troy's not part of it. So what I want to do is I want to bring Troy in. So I'm going to add individuals, and I'll say Troy just joined, but we like Troy. We're going to bring Troy into our lunch buddies group. Now, a couple interesting things I want to highlight. By default, the chat in a team is persistent. What that means is, as you bring more individuals in, perhaps later in the year or later in the project or whenever the team seem to join, all the previous chat history is there for them to review. It's there for them to search. The chat is also contextual. It's also threaded. So we're no longer just posting messages back and forth. People are replying to blocks of messages, and that latest message is sent to the bottom. In a chat environment, as we have here, we actually have a couple options, right? So in a chat environment, we have lunch buddies. As I'm bringing Troy into this group, it gives me the option to say, don't include any chat history. So for example, if we were talking about how do we convince Troy to buy lunch for us today, before we brought him into the group, we may not want him to see that history. Or if we were talking about an escalation and we need Troy to read some of the background on it before he provides his thoughts and input, we can include history from a number of a predefined number of days, or we can say include all chat history in the actual message itself. In this example, we'll say include all chat history, and I'm going to go ahead and add Troy. And then I'm going to go to Troy and I say, Troy, I'm going to say, go ahead, I'm going to tag Troy. I'm going to @mention Troy. I say, Troy Fielder, you're buying lunch, pick a spot. All right, so Troy will eventually get back to us, but I want to talk a little bit more about this posting environment down here. So we talked about the rich editor, the rich text editor. We talked about the ability to attach a file, emojis, GIFs, stickers, schedule a meeting. You can also customize this environment by YouTube videos, Wikipedia searches, places, weather. So in this case, I'm going to pick a spot. I'm going to suggest it to Troy. I'm going to say, let's see, Athens. One of my favorite places is Athens Grill in Seattle. I'm going to click on that and I say, so I've posted a reactive card here, an adaptive card. Everybody can see that this is the place I'm suggesting. They know the location of it. They can get directions to it. They have integration with Yelp and a number of other review places, so they actually get that rich experience as when they want to join. At the same time, I'm going to also, oh, we can see that Troy is typing, so that's great. Oh, interesting. I didn't actually know that the Athena Grill in Seattle was referenced to the goddess Athena. So Troy has just gone ahead and added a Wikipedia search for that and made it that rich environment. And then lastly, I am going to go back in as Lucia, show you that, oh, there's been a bunch of activities that are happening. Click on Lunch Buddies. Again, a mobile device, rich experience. I can see the places, I can see the Wikipedia search, and I can go ahead and I will do a quick emoji, laugh, heart, send, and that's it. Now, a lot of folks ask me, Teams is a great tool. Where do I go for help? Now, you can actually just go to the top here, what we call our command and search bar, do a /, and you're going to see a list of commands that will make you that power user. I'm going to go ahead and just type in the word help, /help, and it's going to bring me to the help for Microsoft Teams. So you can see here some of the basics around what is a team, learning how to set up a channel and a team about the activity feed, around particularly from an education perspective, around a classroom environment. There's a lot of help there. I want to really point out this video button here. There are 10 videos. They range from 90 seconds to 2.5 minutes. They're very quick, small appetite videos for you to click on, and it gives you a video representation of some of these help topics, right? So welcome to Teams. What is Teams? An overview of Teams and channels, how to create a meeting, working in channels, getting your team up and running, starting a conversation, the command bar, right? This is a resource I want you guys to really leverage and use. It's a very powerful resource. Another question I get asked is, how do I search my stuff? Like I'm very used to working in Outlook, where I can really easily search. How do I search my contacts? Like, look, you see Matthew's part of a number of teams. How do we keep track of it all? Up here on our command bar, it actually doubles up as our search bar. So if we were to type in the word project, let's just say project, it's going to look for all references of the word project. And so in this case, we have a chat called project status. We have channels that we are a part of with the word project in it. We can go ahead and click on that if that's what we're looking for. But if that's not what we were looking for, we can actually just say search everywhere for project. So we'll click on the word project. It's going to search messages, people, and files for the word project. Now, this is a lot of information, so we can filter on to be more precise. We can filter on what the subject is, the date range, which team it was a part of. So if we were working with Sherry as an example, and we know we were working on AI research together, I can go ahead and filter that and say, there we go. That was the particular post I was referring to. You can click on it. It will bring you directly to that post that you were looking for. You can look for people, and you can look for files as well, and you can filter on each one of those. One of my personal favorite things to do with this command bar is use the shortcuts. So I'll use things like /chat, and then I'll type in the person's name, Troy, and then I will go ahead and type a quick message to him and saying, so instead of me clicking on channels and going to Troy and doing all of those things, I can use my shortcut keys to really expedite that process a bit more. If you are presenting like I'm presenting right now, you can have a /DND or do not disturb mode, just as you would in Skype. You can also say available, and you can go ahead and mark yourself as available. This presence icon in this corner here, what I call the jelly bean, that's the same. Oh, check out this great website. Thanks, Troy. So Troy's referred me to Success with Teams. When I open that up, oh, this is amazing. Teams documentation and practical guidance. How do you use Teams? How do you have videos? What are the PowerShell commandlets? What are the platforms? That's amazing. I'm going to go back and say thank you, Troy, for that. There is a wealth of resources available for Teams, and Teams is a very powerful tool, and a lot of folks find it that it's challenging to get started. Right. So some of the advice that I will give you working with customers is, to get started, you just have to use it. You really have to go to aka.ms/get teams and download the client, set up a team, and bring people into it and start that conversation. Also keep in mind websites like successwithteams.com, the help videos that I've shared with you here are a great way to get started with Teams. The last thing I'll say before we open it up to any pending questions and answers is, it really does take a change leader in your organization to say, we are not going to be using email. I don't want to be sending you attachments again. I don't want to see 25 emails around the same topic. Let's put it into Teams. I was actually at a customer yesterday, and one of the customers says, we have a rule in our organization that says if it goes beyond 3 emails, put it directly into Teams. Now, we can help you with that, where every one of these channels actually has an email address. So you can click on these 3 dots and say, get email address, and it will give you the email address of that channel. So you can forward that entire email string into a channel and begin and continue that conversation over there. I hope this has been informative. Nick and I are going to stick around to answer any more questions that you may have. But Nick, is there any questions, or what are the themes of the questions that you may want to share with the audience right now so we can talk about them?
Yeah, thanks, Manny. One question we have was around the value of scheduling a meeting within a channel and why someone would want to do that.
Excellent question. So when you think of meeting minutes as a prime example, if you were to schedule a meeting in the context of a channel, if individuals were not able to join that meeting and it was recorded, all of the meeting minutes as well as the recording are put into that channel for later reference. When you when you schedule a meeting, even if you don't record it, you have the ability to have chat conversations back and forth, and as well as the ability to have meeting minutes. All of those are saved or are associated with that meeting and then placed in the channel, which you can reference time and time again, or people that missed the meeting can go back and review what was said, who said what, and what were the decisions that were made at that time. Because the chat is persistent, if those folks that initially started the meeting happen to leave the team, and a lot of the decisions that were made, because it's in the channel, people can go back to it and see what was made and who said what at that time.
Thanks, Manny. We had another question just come in. It says, is there a way of being notified visually that there's a message in a team for which you belong to? Specifically on the left-hand nav bar.
Okay, so I'm assuming, so what I'd ask you to do, so Troy, who's no surprise, is Nick, can you go ahead and do an @ mention to Lucia, please? Anywhere, and we'll show you what the experience looks like. So I'm in Lucia's experience right now. So a couple ways you're going to get notified. First, if you have it set up that way, you're going to get a banner in the bottom corner that says Troy has mentioned you, and this is the team and channel that they're mentioned. You're also going to get an indicator in your activity feed that will show you that there is an @ mention to you or your team or your channel. So there's a visual indicator under activity, as well as under the team itself. You will see a number that's going to say that there's an @ mention towards you, or a visual indicator here. So you can see in this example, there's there's one I have under Project Alpha General. I also have one under one of my other teams down here called Project Blue. So these are some visual indicators that will draw you to that you have been tagged and notified. Now, that being said, I will quickly say you can control the notifications. So in the notifications, under settings, notifications, you can tell it how you want it to notify you depending on the action. So what Troy had done for Lucia right now is did a personal mention. It will do a banner and email. You can do banner only, or you can say show only in feed, and that's the activity bar on the side, which is your feed. Great question.
Follow up on that is, how do you know that there's been activity in a channel in which you may not have been mentioned in?
Excellent question. So let me switch context as well and show you this example. So here's another team. If there's been activity in a team in which you have not been mentioned, what you're going to see is the team and channel be bolded. So in the case of business case development is not bolded, that shows me that I'm up to date on what is happening there. If I were to click on Capstone Project C as an example, you're actually going to see, oh, there is some activity that has happened, and you'll see this bar here that says last read. Everything underneath that is the items that I have not read that are new to me, which has given me the visual indicator of bold. I can go ahead and continue to say mark is unread, not leave the bar, and go back to it at a later time for additional reference.
Thanks, Manny. And then we did have one more request, just to have you review again the controls that you have if someone was editing a document and you needed to go back in a previous version.
Sure. So let me see if I still have that file open. I do have the file open. So here is the budget file that we were working on when I was editing online within the team. Now version history to expose that isn't available inside a team, so you do need the FAT client or the actual client for Excel. How you get to it, it depends on the version that you of Excel you have. Most versions you'll have at the top where it says the title of the document, when it was last saved, there's a drop down that will show you version history. This will bring up a window that you're seeing here, which will show you, the date and who saved what and the time. By clicking on one, what it's going to load up is a copy of that version. And it gives you, you really have two options here essentially, is you can copy and paste the missing data into your actual document. So if I were to say from gold sponsors down, so here, copy, go here and paste it. So there's all my data back again. Or I can just choose to restore that previous version into the final version.
All right, that's it. Thank you, Manny.
It looks like this event is just about wrapping up. So once again, I do want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you joining us. You will be getting a survey later on. Please take a few moments, fill out that survey. It's very short, 4 questions. It only helps us make the experience better. So thank you once again.